territory. This is one of the only areas in government where you're dealing with new ideas.
Hello, and welcome back to the Perch. My name is Hannah Shields, and I'm the state government reporter here at the Wyoming Tribune-Eagle. Today, I'm filling in for Noah while he's away on vacation, but he will be back next week, so tune in then. In this week's episode, I'm going to talk about the Wyoming Stable Token, which is the first of its kind in the country. In March 2023, the Wyoming Stable Token Commission was created through the passage of the Wyoming Stable Token Act. This commission includes the governor, the state treasurer, the state auditor, and no more than 4 subject matter experts. This act also authorized the creation of the Wyoming Stable Token.
The Wyoming Stable Token is a digital representation of a U.S. dollar held in trust on behalf of the token holder by the state of Wyoming. So that's why it's a token and not a coin. In fact, we're very careful about calling it a token and not a coin.
That was Laramie Democratic Senator Chris Rothfuss, co-chair of the Wyoming Legislature's Select Committee on Blockchain, Financial Technology, and Digital Innovation Technology. Stable tokens, more often known as stable coins, are a type of digital currency. Fiat-backed stable coins are backed by the US dollar on a one-to-one basis. So in other words, one coin would equal $1, and this is true in Wyoming. Each Wyoming stable token would be equal to $1 US. This type of digital currency is considered to be much less volatile than cryptocurrency, such as the Bitcoin, because it's backed by real monetary reserves. Wyoming Stable Token Commission Executive Director Anthony Apollo told the Wyoming Tribune-Eagle in an email that the commission intends to make these Wyoming stable tokens globally available. He said a Wyoming stable token can be used to settle dollar-denominated transactions anywhere on Earth in seconds, with fees under a penny. He added that the Wyoming stable token will be stabilized by over-collateralized reserves, and that regulatory clarity will be placed in through the agency's rulemaking process. He added that the state should benefit from the interest generated by the reserves backing each Wyoming stable token, which are short-duration U.S. Treasury bonds and repurchase agreements. The interest will funnel into a state trust account, and leftover funds will be swept on a quarterly basis into the state's school foundation program. This week, members of the Blockchain Committee heard about movements to regulate stablecoins at the federal level and discussed ways to integrate these digital assets within the state. At the federal level, Congress is currently considering a federal stablecoin bill called the Genius Act, or Guiding and Establishing National Innovation for U.S. Stablecoins Act. This bill creates a federal definition of stablecoin and as well creates federal regulations for the stablecoin industry. U.S. Wyoming Republican Senator Cynthia Lummis, a longtime cryptocurrency advocate, has spearheaded many of these cryptocurrency efforts. Chris Land, who serves as general counsel for Senator Lummis, said the Stablecoin Act is still in the negotiation process, and Lummis is already planning next steps for the market structure of the stablecoin industry. Senator Lummis is also working on provisions for digital asset taxation to be included with the Senate's tax package at the federal level. This would include an exemption for mining and staking activities, a de minimis exemption for small digital asset purposes, and also permitting charitable contributions of digital assets to nonprofits without having to have an appraisal. That's according to Land. In addition, during Wednesday's meeting, Cheyenne Republican Representative Lee Filer, who runs a Cheyenne-based crypto mining company called Kryptonite LLC, said a lot of banks in Wyoming have strict policies against cryptocurrency. Senator Rothfuss said special purpose depository institutions, with the acronym SPDIs, or also known as Speedy Banks, could be one solution to this problem. SPDIs are fully reserved institutions that perform similar functions to a bank and are designed to focus on digital assets such as the stablecoin. There are also ongoing conversations with community banks and credit unions to integrate digital assets into their systems as well. As state lawmakers continue to discuss this topic, Blockchain Committee co-chairman Representative Danielle Singh, a Cheyenne Republican, told the Wyoming Tribune-Eagle this could be a great window of opportunity to diversify the state's revenue streams. However, he urges his colleagues to approach this with caution.
As far as our project that we have with the stable token, we need to be cognizant of the relationship with the stable token, how that interacts with the federal government, how that interacts with the market at large. This is new territory. This is one of the only areas in government where you're dealing with new ideas.
Stable tokens are expected to be launched July 4th, but this date is not set in stone, as the Stable Token Commission wraps up testing and finalizes compliance components of the program. To learn more about this, you can read my article on wyomingnews.com. Before we close out, here's a quick recap of some of our top stories from the past week. This week, Laramie County School District 2 does not intend to pursue a policy to address new laws that will allow concealed carry on school campuses. LCSD 2 Superintendent Justin Pirioni told the Wyoming Tribune-Eagle that the district has discussed this choice with legal counsel and believes, at this time, it wasn't necessary to add additional rules for staff that wouldn't be required of anybody else who is visiting the campus. In addition to that, local leaders are hoping that the newly completed renovations to the historic Cheyenne Depot will bring in more local residents and encourage tourists to spend more time downtown. The $1.4 million project was completed only a few months after being approved in September, and was celebrated with a ribbon-cutting ceremony on the newly updated pedestrian patio Tuesday afternoon. In another story, Immigration and Customs Enforcement detainees may soon be legally held at the Laramie County Jail, pending the approval of a supplemental intergovernmental agreement between the two agencies. While the supplemental IGA has yet to be presented to county commissioners, Laramie County Sheriff Brian Kozak said he suspects that the contract would allow ICE to pay the jail a daily rate to hold detainees for more than 72 hours. And finally, a Laramie County man has been sentenced to 4 years for manslaughter aiding suicide in relation to the death of a 49-year-old Burns man. Mark Switzer, 73, pleaded guilty in February following evidence of his involvement in the death of Nathan Combs in Weld County, Colorado in 2017. Combs was found dead on a highway in Weld County just before he was supposed to go to jail on 2 charges of exploitation of a child. Switzer allegedly shot Combs at Combs' request after he expressed not wanting to go to prison as a sex offender. That's all for this week's episode of The Perch. Be sure to tune in next Friday for more.